invite you to listen as I read. When he was gone, Jesus said, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself, and will glorify him at once. My children, I will be with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, where I am going, you cannot come. A new commandment I give you. Love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this, all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Love one another. I just woke you up. Love one another. Love one another. This new commandment seems so easy, almost too easy. But let's talk a little bit about glorification and what glorification means in this context today. You see, glorification, it refers to the nature of believers after the death and judgment, the final step in redemption. The end goal of all of us here, the end goal of the Christian journey in this life. The ultimate perfection of believers, and in order to achieve this, we are to love one another. And then others will know that we belong to Jesus because we have love in our hearts for each other. But, as we know today, loving one another is easier said than done. And being a practical theologian, I started to think of ways that possibly, just possibly, that I learned how to love. And that is by first listening to one another. Instead of preparing something in my head or your head to say back, but to listen first. A few years back, the Presbytery of St. Augustine decided to send a group of us out called Holy Listening. And one of the reasons for that was to find out what was going on in the community and how people were feeling about what was happening. And how some of the smaller churches were feeling, like we found out that they were feeling left out and ignored, and there was a kind of a gossip that was going around that said that Presbytery only wanted money. See? And the other thing was that we found out that, people were feeling disenfranchised because there was a change in different communications and communities in the church that said we don't want LGBTQ individuals to be in our churches or to be ordained. That was an issue. And of course, we lost a lot of money in the presbytery because the bigger churches separated and the smaller churches were left. And it was interesting to find out that when I sat and listened to those smaller communities, it was told to me that we don't have anybody that we believe that are even gay or lesbian or anything else in our church. And I thought, oh, okay. But we do believe that presbytery is only looking out for presbytery. And so one of the things that we were to do was to sit and listen to what their thoughts were without judgment. And one of the things that happened was that some of the members of the community came and they sat with us and they said, we really don't know what's going on, but this is how we feel. We feel disenfranchised. And then it came up from one of the couples. They were about 85 years old. And they came to me and they said, Cheryl, we just found out that that our son is gay. And I sat with them and I said, well, how do you feel about that? They gulped. And then you can see the tears come to their eyes. And I said, what are the tears telling you? Do you love your son? And the tears fell. And they said, we love our son. You see, when you listen to people, real people, then you realize what they have to say. And real issues out there in the news affect real families, even at 85 years old. Yes, we love our son. This is the first time, Cheryl, that I have said we love our son. And I said, well, it looks like that love's not going anywhere. Regardless of our own thoughts. Now, you see, loving one another is kind of hard, isn't it? Especially when we have preconceived notions of what love is. Yeah? And another family came to a church that I was at. They had 7 kids. And one kid was a special needs kid. And they had heard that my husband had worked with special needs children, and they wanted to sit down and talk. And this one kid, you see, took all of their energy from the 6 other kids. What do? Love. Luther said, well, let's try everybody involved in the raising of this child, not just you and you, but everybody. So everybody had an assignment. And everybody helped this child. Oh my goodness. Everybody had homework to do with this kid. Loving one another. Now you see, in the sense of the 85-year-old couple that found out something they didn't know about their son, you see that love didn't go anywhere. They raised that baby like you and I raise our babies, and they love their baby. That special needs family, that one, that child took up 80% of the kids, of the parents' time, and now the work was distributed to everybody to love that special needs baby. Now, romantic love. Woo! Anybody say amen?
Amen.
Amen.
Romantic love is,
Love that romance.
yes. Don't we love romance? In fact, there's something on TV, is it Ladies Channel or some Hallmark, and all they do is romance, is that right?
Romance.
Yeah, Lifetime, there you go. Well, when I was I call it baby girl chaplain, one of the things, I love romance, you know, those things. And I was a baby girl chaplain, and I happened to be working for the CDC, Center for Disease Control. And one of the things that we did back then is deal with AIDS patients. And a lot of times our conversations were outside because people would have to wait in line to get their medication. So one of the things that you do is you found yourself, I realized I had to wear pants all the time. You find yourself sitting on the edge of the curb talking with people. And you see, I met this one little lady. Her name was Angie. And Angie was so much like us, and certainly so much like me. And I met Angie, and the new commandment, I give you love one another. Now I go back to Angie. Angie was like me. She had about 4 or 5 kids then. And she fell into drugs. Back then it was cocaine. And Angie had a little money, really nice house in Stone Mountain somewhere. And she had a problem with drugs. And she contracted AIDS. And her husband found out and put her out on the street. Took the kids, went back home. She wasn't able to go back home. And so she talked about her plight. And she said, you know, chaplain, I did it myself. And I sat there. Like you said, you just gotta listen sometimes with your mouth shut. And she said, I lost my kids. I lost my marriage. I lost my life. And here I am standing in line at the Center for Disease Control because I can't afford the medication. And they gave it out free back then. And she says, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can only pray that I haven't lost my God. Right now, I can't see God. Right now, it's hard to see anything but an empty tongue. Right now, I'm ashamed of myself. Where do I go next? Well, you see, Ladies and gentlemen, when you're at the bottom like that, but as Christians we're willing to sit and talk and cry and hold hands and not judge, that's love. That's the definition of love, because it's hard love. It's difficult love. It's impossible love. It's love that, nobody, most of us, find it difficult to give. You know, when Jesus said, I will not be around much longer. What? The commandment is a new commandment I give you. Love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. And so yes, there is going to be that pretty romantic love that I love to just turn on the TV and watch. That Hallmark stuff makes you feel good inside. But then there's that love where you just got to sit on the curb and love anyway. Love through your own insecurities. Love without judgment. Love without gossip. Love without meanness. Because I saw myself in Angela. Today, Angie was able to get herself together, but not without being in a program. It didn't take one time sitting on the side of the curb. It took, when I was finished, somebody else sitting on the side of the curb. And after they were finished, somebody else sitting on the side of the curb. Sometimes it will take more and more and more. Do you think this couple over here that were 85 years old, they had to say to themselves and let it die, I am sad. This is the mom. Because I may not have grandchildren. But that was about her, wasn't it? But I am glad that my son is happy. That little couple right over here with the 7 kids. Woo! That love took a lot out of them. Thank God for those other 6 that were able to give love. And Angie, it took more than just one chaplain. It took a gaggle of chaplains to talk with her and to lift her up. And she was able to get a job and support herself. You see, it's so easier said than done. When he was gone, Jesus said, now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself and will glorify him at once. My children, I will not be with you but a little longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, where I am going, you cannot come. However, a new commandment I give you, love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. I'll say it again. So you must love one another. This, all men and women will know that you are my disciples. Sitting on the side of the curb,